Jason Goes to Hell would make $15.9 million at the box office. On one hand, this made it the second lowest grossing film in the Friday the 13th franchise, just barely beating out Jason Takes Manhattan. On the other hand, this was on a budget of just $3 million, and when factoring in how well Jason Goes to Hell did on home video, the movie ended up being decently profitable for New Line Cinema. Also, with the Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street franchises back in the public eye, it was time to move forward with the whole reason New Line wanted the Crystal Lake Killer in the first place. Freddy vs. Jason was now the priority. Shortly after Jason Goes to Hell was released, Sean Cunningham created a new production company called Crystal Lake Entertainment, whose sole responsibility would be to help New Line co-produce Freddy vs. Jason. Cunningham Productions, his independent production company, could then solely focus on looking for other projects in and outside of the horror genre. Cunningham and Michael DeLuca, who was the president of production at New Line at the time, handled the production of Freddy vs. Jason, and also came to an agreement early on. They would only move forward with the script that both sides were completely satisfied with. The problem is, finding that ended up being much harder than anyone could have anticipated. I plan on going into more detail about this in the next video, but actually getting Freddy vs. Jason off the ground ended up being a nightmare for everyone involved. 12 different screenwriters with 12 different scripts were brought in, none of them completely satisfying both Cunningham and DeLuca. By 1999, Freddy vs. Jason wasn't any closer to being a reality. The relationship between Cunningham and DeLuca was very tense, and Sean Cunningham was once again struggling financially. It was then that he made a decision. Since any momentum and buzz from Jason Goes to Hell had worn off, it was time to get another Jason movie in theaters while getting the Freddy vs. Jason situation sorted out. He took this idea to New Line, who initially wasn't interested. Then, Cunningham gave them an ultimatum. Either let me make a new Jason movie, or he would take the character rights to Jason somewhere else, and the Freddy vs. Jason dream would be dead entirely. With that, DeLuca and New Line conceded, and a new Jason movie was in development. From the beginning, Cunningham knew he once again wanted to make a movie that was completely new and fresh. He hired his son Noel to produce the film. Noel would bring in Jim Isaac to direct the film, and Todd Farmer was brought on to write. With the creative team set, no idea was too crazy to be off the table. Some ideas explored were Jason in the Safari, Jason underwater, Jason in the Hood, Jason in LA, and Jason involved with NASCAR. Jim Isaac's initial concept was putting Jason back at Camp Crystal Lake during the winter, where a snowstorm hits the camp hard, leaving a group of skiers stuck at the camp with Jason. This idea was quickly dismissed, and Jim Isaac would go on to say that it's his first of many regrets about the entire process. He wished he would have fought for this concept harder, and really I don't blame him. If this had come to fruition, it would have given fans something they have wanted to see for decades, a Friday the 13th movie set in the snow. Not only that, but during a blizzard. This sounds like it could have been fantastic, but it wasn't meant to be. Eventually, the concept they came up with became a reality due to a joke Noel Cunningham made in passing, Jason in Space. As Cunningham, Farmer, and Isaac explored that idea further, they warmed up to it. Part of this was because it would allow them to set the film centuries into the future, so the events of it wouldn't interfere with any potential Freddy vs. Jason movie. The idea was then taken to Sean Cunningham, who was at first very hesitant about it. However, after seeing a treatment written by Farmer, Sean also was on board, calling the treatment terrific. Farmer and Isaac then approached Michael DeLuca, who after not only seeing a treatment but also the first draft of the script, adored the idea. With that, as wacky and unlikely as it was, Jason X was moving forward. However, this is where the good times ended for the creative team behind the film. Farmer and Isaac have been very outspoken about how the actual process of making the film was a nightmare. They both said the final product was not the vision they had in the initial script. Outside writers were being brought in to do extensive rewrites deep into pre-production and even into the final filming of the movie. While the concept was always going to have a decent amount of comedy, the initial vision Farmer and Isaac had for the film was one that was darker, edgier, and scarier than the one that actually made it to the screen. More futuristic technology and the elements of space were also supposed to be in play as well. Initially, there was a scene where the passengers of the ship were to be partying, doing drugs in a floating sex bubble. Yes, really. This scene never made it into the film. Eventually, the darker, edgier tone was replaced with more lighthearted and cornier humor. Things would be abruptly added and taken out of the script without notice. Sean Cunningham would add new pages himself, with them being delivered to the cast the same day of production. So as I've laid out, the entire production of the movie was chaotic and frankly dysfunctional. On top of that, Michael DeLuca, the New Line executive who was the biggest cheerleader of the film by far, left the company on bad terms in 2000, with really nobody else enthusiastic about releasing the film. This led to New Line Cinema putting the film on the shelf for over 2 years, only releasing it after the film had already leaked online. So, in a franchise with a history of tense and problem-filled productions, this was arguably the most chaotic and dysfunctional one yet. The only reason Jason X came to exist was due to the inability to get the concept Sean Cunningham and New Line was really passionate about off the ground, though. But how did this zany new direction for the Friday the 13th franchise actually turn out? Let's get into my thoughts. So, just right off the bat, I think Jason X does a much better job of what Jason Goes to Hell set out to do. Give us a wildly different experience while still feeling like Friday the 13th. As I said in my review of Jason Goes to Hell, while I can appreciate the effort, they just took too many bold swings with that movie to the point where it didn't even feel like Friday the 13th anymore. Jason X gives us a wildly different setting, which is refreshing, while still having the basic formula of a Friday the 13th film. Sure, the setup is pretty generic and predictable, with Jason being in space because the government wanted to do more research and eventually use him as a weapon, but the job to explain why Jason is in space is effectively done. The movie does a great job of balancing change while still giving us the familiar beats of a Friday the 13th film. Another thing I really like about this movie is the tone. It seems like that was the main source of disagreement between the creative team of this film. Farmer and Isaac wanted something more dark, edgy, and scary, whereas the Cunninghams wanted something more zany and intentionally corny. To be honest, on this one, I think the Cunninghams were in the right. The whole idea of Jason in space on its own is so ridiculous, over the top, and corny, and the tone the Cunninghams pushed for fit the movie perfectly. I mean, no disrespect to Farmer and Isaac, but I have my doubts about whether their edgier and darker version of Jason X would have been as effective. We'll never know for sure, but I have my doubts. The charm of this movie for me comes from its self-awareness, and while the hokiness does start to wear on me near the end of the film, for the most part, I just have a blast with it.
Now what?
Now basically we die.
Bullshit!
Okay, new plan. You hold him and I'll run.
Hey, Slappy! Got a little something for you.
Oh, wow.
Gave her an upload.
Afraid I'm gonna have to hurt you now.
I think we're finally okay.
I'd clap if I could.
Oh, this sucks on so many levels!
Kian, are you okay?
I'll be back on my feet in no time. As soon as I have some.
I'll get right on it.
Also, Jason himself is a huge positive in this movie. This is Kane Hodder's final time in the role, and in my opinion, it's his best portrayal of the character. Plus, I really like the look of Jason in this film. The first one we see is simple but effective, with his torn up clothes and the chain around his neck. I do like the mask in this film as well. Then, of course, we get the last 15 minutes with Uber Jason, and I'm not going to lie, guys, I love the transformation, especially the chrome mask and red eyes. It's a great iconic new look for the character. Jason X giving us two wildly different looks for Masked Jason makes it stand out. And no, the body switching in Jason Goes to Hell doesn't count. Also, the movie has a very solid batch of kills, including one of the 5 to 10 best in the entire franchise with the frozen face kill. It looks great, and from what I understand, it was mostly done practically. However, we also get a kill where a soldier is impaled on a screw, one where
Besides, we found Condor.
What's his condition?
He's screwed.
soldier gets split in half, and a kill involving the legendary David Cronenberg. In a drastic change from the rest of the franchise, the MPAA actually went easy on Jason X, as according to the director Jim Isaac, most of the gore that was shot does make it to the screen. No matter what, you have to admit that this film delivers on the kills. It's not only a different environment, but we get to see this movie really embrace and have fun with the fact that Jason is in space. My favorite part of the film is with the hologram simulator imitating Crystal Lake in 1980. That whole sequence is just just a blast. It's a perfect tribute to the earlier part of the franchise while using the tools of this futuristic world within the film. Considering how colorful the film is, it isn't bad to look at either. It's also cool to see the victims Jason is stalking throughout the film have weapons, causing the need for him to operate in the shadows a little bit more. Jason also has to fight an android, which is cheesy but awesome. Now let's move on to the things I don't like about the film. First of all, I just think that these characters are either forgettable or only memorable because of their corniness. Rowan is our final girl here, and she's pretty much just a less interesting clone of Ellen Ripley. The back and forth between Janessa and Sunaran is definitely entertaining, but the two characters are only memorable for their extreme corniness, as I said before.
Why don't you just admit it? You want me.
I could never be with a girl whose balls are bigger than mine.
I'm bitchy as hell when I wake up.
Did you just wake up?
The same goes for the Sunaran and KM romance. The professor is your standard Weasley douche character, whose main memorable moment is not even his death, but the strangest sex scene in the franchise. Kinza is one of the most annoying characters in the entire franchise, as she almost gets everyone killed and becomes a weeping ball of mush for most of the film. It's also her moan from sex with her boyfriend that apparently wakes Jason up. Yes, I'm serious. Brodsky is just the stereotypical tough guy Marine. Overall, outside of the intentionally corny nature of some of them, the characters are just kind of lacking here. Jason X is a groundbreaking film, as it was one of the first films to be completed entirely in the digital realm. It was shot on film and digitally enhanced HD. Despite the groundbreaking digital effects of the time, they are very dated by today's standards. As cool as Uber Jason is, the transformation scene itself is very dated due to the CGI. While I think the effects and production value have aged better than some of the other slasher and space movies of its time, like Leprechaun 4 and Hellraiser, I don't necessarily think that's a ringing endorsement. While the dated elements do contribute to the fun, corny tone it's going for, it is a distraction at points. Up to this point, Jason X is the final film in the franchise with Harry Manfredini composing the score, and I have to sadly say it's one of his weaker efforts. It's not bad, it's just generic. I get them trying to give the movie a newer, more modern score to fit it, but I think this, along with the Jason Goes to Hell score, shows that Manfredini hasn't been able to adjust and give us a modernized Friday the 13th score that comes even close to being as iconic as his earlier work in the franchise. So guys, despite its flaws, I can't lie when I say that I have a lot of fun and get a lot of enjoyment out of Jason X. It'll never be my favorite Friday the 13th by any means, but the cheesy, ridiculous tone fits perfectly with the cheesy, ridiculous concept. The movie also has great kills, a great transformation for Jason, and even some good atmosphere and cinematography at points. So despite some forgettable characters and questionable acting, a generic score, and some very dated elements of the film, I'm going to have to give Jason X a 6.5 out of 10. Far below the best in the franchise, but I have a blast with this one nonetheless. So that's going to do it for me today, guys. What do you think of this wild entry in the Friday the 13th franchise? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you later. Okay, take care.